The Homecoming, a story by Eden's Heart. Uche drove his family home for the first time in 12 years. Every year for those 12 years, Uche and his family would prepare to visit home, but they couldn't remember why they never made it home. They visited home to see the new house his older brother and his wife built for them with the money they were sending home. They were still outside greeting people when his niece, Didi, ran to her father panting. "Uncle Uche and his family are back," Didi told her father, Okena frowning. "What? How? No, it cannot be, they cannot be here. Call your mother to delay them from entering the gate," Okena said while he ran outside his house through the back door and zoomed off. "He is back. Do something, activate it now," Okena said to an old frail man who was sitting on the floor panting. "Calm down, let me check something," the old man said to Okena and quickly broke a calabash filled with an animal blood on the ground. "It is done, they are already mad," the old man said after doing some incantations and throwing Uche's family picture inside fire. Okena then went home, welcomed Uche and his family into the compound and opened the door to the house he had built for Uche and said, "Welcome home, my brother." Uche and his family danced happily while walking into the house. They were wowed by the edifice Okena built for them. "I told you my brother is a good man, look at the beautiful house he put our money into," Uche said with a broad smile to his wife. As they were smiling and dancing, Didi, who was hearing their voice from her father's parlor, was watching them in confusion. She was wondering why they were so happy. How can a house like this make them happy? Didi thought to herself where she was peeping from. That same night, Uche and his family prepared a sumptuous meal, and with an exotic drink, they visited Okena and his family to thank them for their help and to inform them of their final relocation to the village. Okena was very angry and uncomfortable. He pretended to be smiling but deep down, he was troubled. "You cannot stay here," Okena blurted out unknowingly. Uche smiled at him and said, "How can I have a big mansion like this and be squatting in a flat with my family? My 2 children in the university will be coming home soon and it is always difficult and uncomfortable for us. Since I lost my job in the city, it will be better we stay here." Uche continued talking and smiling. Okena then pretended to be happy for them. "We need to act fast, they must not find out," Okena's wife whispered immediately. Uche and his family bade them good night. "I need to make the madness permanent and much worse. You know Okaka did it to last for only a few days, but since Uche wants to dare me and stay back, we have to make it last forever." The next day, Okena visited Okaka again. "My stupid brother wants to stay back permanently, we have to make the madness permanent too." Few weeks later, Henry, Uche's first son, returned home from the university. He walked home from the park happily while he looked forward to the house his parents have talked so much about. When he got close to the house, he called his twin sister on video call smiling. "Hannah, I'm home and about to go into our compound." But immediately he opened their gate, he stepped on the invincible mat Okena kept on the ground and his view about the house changed. But Hannah, who was still in her senses, screamed, "Is that our house?" Henry smiled and said, "It's cool, right? Uncle Okena did so good, look at the mansion he built for us. This is a refuse dump, how can you not see it?" Hannah shouted on the phone, but it was too late. Henry was already as crazy as the rest of the family. Okena has infected him with the madness he infected his parents and 2 younger siblings with. The madness that made them not to see the true picture of their house. Their house was a fallen mud house where Okena and his family dump refuse. It was a house their grandfather used as a shrine before his death, and it was in the same compound with Okena's house. While Uche was sending money to Okena to build a house for him, he was using the money to build a shopping plaza in their village market, and training his first son abroad. "There is problem," Okena whispered to his wife. "Henry has shown the house to Hannah on the phone, so she has seen the house without being here first, which means she has seen the true image of the house. Run to Okaka and tell him, we need to act fast, she must not come here and scatter our life for us," Okena's wife said angrily. Okena ran to the same old man, Okaka, immediately and told him what was happening. "Uche's first daughter have seen the house and I heard that she is coming home by weekend. That is not hard. We will make sure she never gets home, the old man said reassuringly. 2 days later, Hannah entered a bus at the park to visit home and save her family. She couldn't believe her parents were too blind to see what was happening, so she was convinced they were not in their right senses. But on her way home, the bus she entered was attacked by Okenna and Okaka. They appeared on the road and pushed their bus into a ditch. She is gone, Okenna said happily to his wife. Since no one is coming back again, we need to erase Uche and his family from people's memory, Ginnika suggested. They both visited Okaka, and Uche and his family were spiritually erased from people's memory. Within 1 week, Uche and his family started looking very dirty because they have not bathed for those 7 days. While Okenna and his wife gives them the leftover food they remained to eat. Whenever he wanted to give them such remnant, he will sneeze and cough inside before handing it over to them. This continued for 2 months, and within that 2 months, Okenna sold Uche's car, their cell phones and all the valuables they returned home with. Meanwhile, Hannah woke up from coma after almost 2 months. She looked around and started shouting for help. "Why am I in the hospital?" Hannah asked the nurse that ran to her help. The nurse tried to explain her situation to her, but unfortunately, the lack of oxygen to the brain that she had suffered when she was almost drowning affected her, and she does not even remember whom she was, talk more of remembering her name or her parents' name. The nurses searched the only bag that was recovered from the water when their car fell into the ditch. But the bag was just filled with cloth, no clue about where she was from or even her name. They even put her picture on social media, but no one came forward to ask of her. Hannah remained in the hospital until she became physically well, and when she did, the hospital converted her to a cleaner. She was given a storeroom to be sleeping in. Her parents' condition was getting worse while Okenna and his family flourished. "We need money, and you know Uche no longer sent money home like before since he foolishly came back to the village. I need to buy some new clothes for our meeting that is coming up and stock my shop well again," Ginnika said to Okenna one night. "We have sold all Uche's land and even their personal properties. What do we sell again to make money?" Okenna asked angrily. "Let's sell Ngozi, their youngest daughter. There are lots of people who will buy her for a good price," Ginnika suggested, smiling. Okenna was very happy. "This is good news. We can make millions and use the money for more important things." They met a man who buys young girls and offered Ngozi to him. The man agreed to their price and asked them to bring Ngozi in order to collect the money. They were so happy, and Okenna took Ngozi to Okaka. "Remove her madness. We are selling her," Okenna said to Okaka. Okaka agreed to do it but warned Okenna, saying, "If she is no longer mad, do not let her see or meet any member of her family. Any of them that sees and touches her will regain their sanity." Okenna laughed and said boastfully, "She will not step her foot in their house again, so nothing will happen." Okaka then used a water mixed with animal blood to wash Ngozi's face and said, "Take her away, she will regain her senses before you get home. I don't want her to regain it here so that she won't recognize me." But they didn't know that Ngozi got herself immediately. They took her to Okaka and she heard everything Okaka said. They took her away and Okenna's wife held her hand while they walked home, but after walking for a while, Ngozi bit Okenna's wife's hand so hard and pushed her with all her strength and ran away. She jumped into the bush and started running. Okenna shouted stop and followed her immediately. Ngozi continued running until she saw a neat compound along the road. She ran into the compound and entered one of the rooms. She could hear Okenna shouting her name like a madman and running past the compound too. He ran home to Uche's house thinking Ngozi ran straight home. He was running and panicking because of what Okaka said about Ngozi's family seeing her. "If Uche meets his daughter, then we are finished," Okenna continued talking and crying while he ran home. But when he got home and saw his Uche's family the same way they were, he was relieved. "Search everywhere," he ordered his 2 children. They quickly searched every inch of the fallen house where Uche and his family were living and didn't see Ngozi. Okenna then ordered them to lock the gate and stay vigilant. "Ngozi must not come anywhere close to this compound," Okenna said angrily. Their children watched the compound while Okena and his wife searched the entire neighborhood. She is still here. I wonder where she will be hiding, Okena said, looking worried. When it became dark, Ngozi, who was hiding under the bed inside the room she ran into, came out. She looked outside through the window and saw the family she was hiding in their house, eating at a table they kept outside. She ran away through their backyard and headed to her parents. The memory of how her house was filled her head. Even as young as she was and as very weak and exhausted she felt, she knew something was wrong. I will tell Mommy and Daddy to leave there. How can we be staying inside Refuse Dump and be thinking it was a mansion? She thought and started crying. When she got to her house, she sighted her uncle from afar, looking angry while standing in front of their house. She hid very close to their house, waiting. After several hours, her uncle and his family, who felt Ngozi cannot come close to the close by 2 a.m., retired to bed. That was when Ngozi walked slowly and jumped the fence. But instead of running into her house as she had planned, she fell into a trap that Okena kept around the fence in case she jumped. The trap held her legs so tight and she shouted in pain. So her shout due to pain alerted Okena and he ran out with his son immediately. But when they ran to where the noise had come from, Ngozi had disappeared with the trap. Ngozi ran inside their house with the injury in her leg and the trap tightly holding her leg. She got to her mother, touched her and whispered, "Wake up, Mommy, wake up." Her mother, who was eating poop, suddenly got herself. She wanted to scream but Ngozi quickly said, "Don't make a sound, Mommy, Uncle Okena will hear you. I need to go now before they notice I have seen you. Please pretend to still be insane, Mommy, pretend, don't let them know," Ngozi said and sneaked outside. She ran close to the fence and fell down, acting like someone who was unconscious. Okena's son saw her and called on his father. They both carried her inside. "Foolish girl, look at how much she stressed us. I think she wanted to escape after the trap held her leg," Okena said while removing the trap that was still firmly holding Ngozi's leg. "Let me go and check if she touched and talked to anyone in their house. If I notice any changes in any of them, I will kill the person," Okena said angrily and left. Okena, who has not entered the abandoned refuse dump he left for his brother and his family before, started flashing his torchlight at them through the broken windows. He saw Uche dressed in rags and talking to some invisible people with all seriousness. He moved to the other window and saw their other child and their first son Henry, all sitting on the floor eating dirt. He smiled, but became worried immediately when he did not see their mother. "Where is that stupid woman?" he murmured under his breath. Their mother, who was inside one of the rooms crying, was trying to get herself together. "I need to act as mad I can. He must not know I know," she had told herself. When Okena flashed his torchlight at where she was sitting on the floor, eating dirt. She tried to hide her tear-stained face as much as possible. Okena saw her and smiled while saying, "Let's go, the silly girl hasn't been able to meet anyone. We must treat her now so that we can give her away first thing tomorrow morning." Immediately Okena left, Uche's wife got up and ran to her husband and said, "Wake up, my husband, wake up and see where you are." Once she said that, Uche woke up and was so shocked. He looked at himself and saw how dirty he was and how filthy their house was too. "I must be dreaming," he said in tears. "No, you are not. Your brother Okena did something to all of us. We were blinded and turned into mad people," Uche's wife said in tears. "I think Ngozi is in trouble. She woke me up to reality and she vanished." I overheard Okena saying they will hand her over to someone. "We need to act and fast," Uche's wife said while she held her husband and they wept together. They woke their children up and told them to prepare. "We are sneaking out tonight. Okena and his evil family must not wake up to find us here," Uche said angrily. "Once I and your mother take you all out of here, we will come and camp at the gate. I don't want to go to them now because I don't even know what is going on yet," Uche said, still crying. They all sneaked out through the broken windows and ran to the gate. But when they got to the gate, they saw a heavy padlock on the gate and traps all over around the fence. Uche tried to remove the traps but he was too weak and the traps made a very loud noise. The noise woke Okenna and his family, who were already sleeping, up. "What noise is that?" Okenna shouted from his bedroom and instantly carried his pot of juju. His wife followed him closely while they both spoke in an odd language and claiming their enemies have come to fight them. Uche and his family quietly sneaked back into their refuse dump and pretended to be mad again. Okenna came out, with the pot in his hand and his wife walking closely behind him, looked around the whole compound, but saw no one. He took the pot closer to the gate and broke it on the ground, saying, "Whoever you are that is trying to attack me and my family will stand at a spot once they step foot inside this compound." Uche and his family, who had to pretend and play being crazy, were scared. If he could keep us in this state for God knows how long with Jazz, what will he do if he finds us healthy? Uche thought silently in fear. Uche then told his wife to wait in the house. "Let me go alone outside and find a way for us to leave." He walked outside and saw a python standing guard in front of the locked gate. That was when he realized they were dealing with someone stronger than them. "We must find a way out of this house at first light. We need to know where they are taking our daughter to," Uche's wife said in tears. "I can't believe this. I trusted Okenna and handed over everything to him. Why would he do this to us?" In all of these, they were still dressed in the rags to avoid being found out. At first light, they saw Okenna standing in front of his own house and speaking to some cola nuts he was holding in his hand. When he was done, he threw the cola nuts on the ground and 2 big pythons rushed and ate them. Uche and his family, on seeing what happened, became even more horrified. "Who is this? This is not my only brother Okenna," Uche said painfully. Okenna brought Ngozi, who was limping outside, and his wife led the way. "Call Mr. Klin that we are already bringing her. I don't want to waste time at the junction to avoid anyone recognizing me," Ginika said and covered her face and Ngozi's face with a scarf. Uche, who was scared of exposing his entire family, couldn't hold himself any longer. He climbed the window and was about to jump out when he heard a knock at the gate and a loud voice shouting, "Uche, Uche, I am here to see my sister. I am with Hannah," Uche's wife's younger sister shouted in a loud voice. Okenna was so startled and he ran inside his house to call the police to report that thieves were at his gate. What Okenna didn't know was that immediately they cured Ngozi's madness, the charm of erasing Uche family from people's memory broke and Uche's wife's sister suddenly remembered that she has not heard from her sister in almost a year. She tried her sister's number and Uche's own too, but couldn't reach them. Her phone rang letter and it was from someone that knew them. The person sent the picture of Hannah that was posted almost a year ago on social media as a lost accident victim looking for her family. So when Uche's wife's sister, Auntie Grace, saw it, she ran to see her sister's family early the next morning. Okenna was already dialing the number of a corrupt police officer that was his friend when his wife tapped him and said, "Is it not better you go out there and tell that silly woman that her sister and her family are not here?" Okenna smiled and agreed. "I think it's better. After all, her sister is crazy and cannot speak for herself." But when Okenna opened the gate, he was shocked to see so many villagers and their neighbors standing at the gate with Auntie Grace. They were all woken up once and the only people in their thoughts were Uche and his family. Okenna almost ran back inside, but he composed himself and smiled. "Ha! Grace, long time no see, why are you here?" he asked Auntie Grace, still smiling. "My sister and her family have not been in touch with any one of us since, and all your neighbors are saying they have not seen them since they returned from the city." Okenna smiled and said, "Your sister and her family left immediately they returned. My brother got another job the next day after they returned. My sister can never forget me. We spoke to each other every day until almost a year ago," Grace said angrily. "I don't know why you are angry with me. If you were close to your sister as you imply, why didn't you call her for almost a year?" Okenna said while raising his voice. Everyone turned and faced Grace. "Why have you not called or visited your sister until now?" Grace could not answer them. She doesn't know how or what made her not to have spoken to her sister. Okenna, seeing the reaction of their neighbors that were gathered, started raising his voice and telling Grace not enter his compound. Hannah, who was still suffering from memory loss, couldn't even talk nor recognize anyone. She was just looking lost and sad. Okenna wanted to go back inside when Auntie Grace pushed the gate open by force. That was when Uche and his wife jumped out of the broken window and started crying. Okenna and his family did something to us. Look at where we are staying. He tried to erase us by attacking our minds, Uche continued talking with tears. Grace saw his sister and started wailing. She called on everyone to come to their rescue. Uche and his family were looking terribly sick with their skeletons very much visible and they couldn't run even if they had wanted to. Before Auntie Grace came, they were sitting inside, very weak and unable to think for themselves due to exhaustion. Just when Auntie Grace and their neighbors were forcing themselves into the gate, Okenna's wife Ginika started pouring kerosene on the refuse dump to burn Uche's children that were still inside. As people were shouting and running towards her to stop her because Uche was too weak to stop her, she threw a lighter into the house and the house with all the refuse inside it started burning. Uche's wife used her last strength to run inside and grabbed her 2 children who were looking so unkempt and severely malnourished and ran out of the house. When Ngozi saw her parents outside, she ran and hugged them. All the people's effort to quench the fire failed, because there were a lot of inflammable objects in the fire. Auntie Grace quickly took her sister and her family back to the city for proper care and treatment while the entire village gathered and was looking for Okenna and his family. Okenna and his family disappeared and were not found until years later. Uche and his family spent 4 months in the hospital receiving treatment, after which his wife died as she couldn't survive what they went through. Uche, upon his recovery and burying his wife, came home and sold his entire father's compound. He searched and found Okenna years later hiding in a very remote village with a changed identity, pastoring a church where he was selling underage girls to rich men. Uche first of all sent some men to burn down his church. When they did, he also sent them to burn his home. When he had seen that Okenna and his family were homeless, he sent the same group of men to beat him up and strip him of everything he had. By the time Uche sent the police to arrest Okenna, he was already very hopeless and living as a homeless person. Some family members do not care about your life, they all care about the money you bring home. So be careful whenever you want to retire home. Sometimes, the enemy of a man is within his household.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.